Brian Telluride. It's an old ritual talking to you here. I've been here many, many, many times, and I'd like to know how this festival nourishes you.
It's like coming back to a family reunion, and it's always invigorating. You see your dear family, and they are dispersed all over the world, and very good to see directly that's what they're doing right now. That's how they changed in their thinking, and that's the new tools they're using, and so it's quite an invigorating moment, and I always look forward to come to Telluride.
Do you find yourself seeing more narratives or classics or documentaries?
I try to avoid the big feature films that you can see in theaters later on. I try to see films that I've never seen before, and I'll probably never see again. For example, Volker Schlöndorff, the German director, his guest director, and he brought 5 or 6 of his favorite films. And there's an extraordinary film from East Germany made in the 60s, and I only knew about it by name. I was 19, and it's such an extraordinary film, and I know I'll never see it again.
And seeing it on the big screen is special too.
Sure,
Now that
yes.
we've entered this other world.
It was always made for the big screen.
What else knocked you off your socks this time of the films you
Well,
saw?
I have, since it's always my crux that I bring a film and then I have the duty of introducing it, and I do have some sort of things going on each year. For example, speaking to high school students. This morning I had duties. I have to introduce my own film in 2 hours from now again up on the mountain. So I do not see too many films, unfortunately.
I saw your film in your theater. Does that make, if you go in there and there's your picture everywhere and clips from your films, how does that make you feel?
It's strange. I can almost ignore it as if it was on about some filmmaker. I do recognize all of a sudden a situation. Oh, that was from Heart of Glass, that was from Antarctica, that was from whichever film. I make a joke and I say this is my out-of-body experience.
It must feel good though, and to feel honored in this way.
Yeah.
But you borrowed from some of your old films in your new film, Into the Inferno. How did that come about that you did that?
Because the film on volcanoes has, I say it in quotes, a prehistory. I made a film on a volcano in the Caribbean in 1976, that long ago. And meaning the fascination was in me long time. It's almost a film like summing up a lot of what I've done over many years, over decades almost. And then the film quotes from my film I did 10 years ago in Antarctica, Encounters at the End of the World, because one of the encounters was up on a live volcano, Mount Erebus, and I came across Clive Oppenheimer, a volcanologist from Cambridge University, and from then on we kept saying we should do a film about volcanoes. For a while there was the idea to do an IMAX film. I'm glad that I didn't do the IMAX film. The procedures are very slow with IMAX, and so I said let's go and do what we really want to do. IMAX would have been mostly what I call the fireworks, but not, for example, speaking to villagers in the Western Pacific, in Melanesia, about a cult that they created, the John Frum cult, or North Korea.
Stuff.
You see, all that stuff. That's not stuff you can have in an IMAX film.
Or
so
you
I'm
couldn't
glad
have gone to North Korea, I don't think.
No, not really.
Because that's
no.
an interesting detour.
Yes.
In
North Korea,
relationship
of course,
to the volcano.
and North Korea was one of the most fascinating, and of course people are in awe when they see this. Even though the scope of what we were allowed to do was, of course, limited, but it doesn't matter.
You had fun with it. You brought in the archival footage, which is astonishing anyway.
Yeah,
And you got close to those faces of the men
yeah,
alongside the cliff
Right.
there. That was what really
Yeah.
struck me, looking into their empty eyes, as you say. In
yeah.
the
Not just
narration.
empty. Yeah, we do not know really. We should be cautious about it. But of course, everything is different there. Everything, and you see at the beginning a troop of men emerging from the mists, and in step and in uniforms, and chanting a song in praise of the volcano, and I immediately thought, aha, it's soldiers, a battalion of soldiers. No, not so. They were university students, and imagine university students from California, from a campus. It's just mind-boggling. And this kind of scrutiny into an unknown world is something that always has fascinated me. And in a way, the film sums up a lot of what I have done over decades.
You also find a volcano that almost obliterated humankind, and now you have come up with another one that could obliterate us. Which one is that?
Well, you're talking about Toba, the famous Toba eruption, which happened 74,000 years back in time. And of course, it was so gigantic within our somehow recorded history of volcanic sediments or so. There's nothing comparable to this one. And we have reason to believe that the Toba eruption almost wiped out the human race. It is a crater lake that is 100 kilometers in diameter. You have to imagine a column of explosion and ashes and pumice being propelled into the stratosphere. 15,000 cubic kilometers of ashes and pumice, and of course all these particles obscure the sky, and they start to distribute around the entire planet. So evidence of this event you can find, of course, in countries in the vicinity, but you also find it in ice cores in Greenland and in Antarctica, everywhere in the world. So for many years it was very dark, and photosynthesis, which is the basis of our food chain, was somehow disrupted. And this is why the human race almost was wiped out.
We got through it, but what about the one that threatens us now, or could threaten us in the near future?
Well, there are a few of them. One in Bolivia, Uturuncu. It's a gigantic. You see, you have certain areas like Yellowstone National Park, which is something like 20 kilometers across, and the crust of the Earth is very thin, and it could eventually explode, but we don't know. Maybe in 5 million years, or in 20 million years, or maybe in 20,000. Or the Bay of Naples. Everybody knows it's a dangerous one, and it's not only Vesuvius and some other volcanoes, but it's the entire seabed, the entire bay, something like 10 miles across at least, which could blast in its entirety. But you see, we shouldn't panic.
Give away too much.
No, we're not giving away. It would be silly to panic over this, because it may happen in 20 million years.
Well, what you're talking about is your attraction to these primordial forces that are beyond what we would consider to be mere nature, right?
No, it is.
It is mere
It
nature.
is nature, yes, and we are right on top of it. It's in the kind of force, the dynamics of it, and the raw power of it has a very certain strange beauty about it. And it's fascinating. You can't take your eyes away like when you're looking into your campfire or your fireplace at home, you just can't take your eyes off. There's something very, very primordial in us.
And is there something in you that is still attracted to being close to danger?
No, I've never been attracted to danger. And the one, and you can see it actually in the film, that everybody out in the camp on Mount Erebus in Antarctica thought I would upsile them down on ropes to the very...
expected
Yes,
this.
and they were all surprised that I didn't want that. I was interested in what were they doing, and of course with a long lens looking down into the magma of the inner earth. So no, I've never been into that. That's something which happens in the media. It's actually not me. There's a certain stratum of my existence which only is out there in perception.